All right, I'm going to say something. I hope people don't get too mad at me about this, but I think that Charles Leclerc is actually the real challenger to Max Verstappen right now. If you look at Charles Leclerc, he's only 86 points behind Max, and if Max's performances keep on going the way that they do, I think that 86 points is not actually that big of a gap, especially when you look and see that Max still has Singapore, and it is very, very possible that Max walks away at Singapore with no points whatsoever, right? Like, look at last year where Max, had probably one of the most dominant years in the history of sports. Not just motorsports, but sports. He only walked away from Singapore with 10 points, right? And, this is 25, 25, 24, 26, 25, 26, 25, 34, 26, 26, 33, 25, 25, 10. Right? So I think that there's a big chance that Max does not finish Singapore. It would be hilarious if he won Singapore. Like, Singapore is like the first, race, is the only race in this terrible part of the season that he actually wins. But he also has problems at Azerbaijan. So, you know, there's a legitimate 50 point gap that can be made up between either Leclerc and Norris versus Max Verstappen, and I think that Leclerc is that guy and Norris isn't. And I mean, you can look at my old videos. I've gone over this 1,000 times. I think that Lando Norris is a whiny little bitch. I don't think he has that dog in it. I don't think he's able to win. We saw that this weekend with Oscar Piastri, but it's something we've seen over and over and again. This guy just doesn't have the winning mentality. Maybe he will one day, but he doesn't have it right now. While Charles Leclerc, they kind of bottled the 2022 season with a lot of bad strategic decisions, which obviously you could blame on the pit wall. But like, I think Charles Leclerc has kind of turned into a monster over the past 3 years. I think that what we're seeing is one of these like hero arcs where the hero just goes through an absolute mire of shit and is just forged through the fire of terrible setback after terrible setback. And I think that we might be seeing a reinvigoration of Charles Leclerc where he becomes the champion. I don't think he came into Formula One as a champion, even though he did chase Sebastian Vettel out of Ferrari. People have to remember that, right? But like, I don't think he was there. I think he was like a little bit there, but he still like needed that extra bit. And I think the past 3 years of just horrible things happening over and over again, and especially last year in Singapore where Carlos Sainz won and he wasn't able to win, right? Carlos Sainz was the only non-Red Bull driver to win last year, not Charles Leclerc. And then, bringing Lewis Hamilton in is obviously a great decision, but like, it's kind of a slap in the face of Charles Leclerc, right? Like, oh, we're bringing this guy to be the real number one because you obviously can't get it done, right? Like, I think that Charles Leclerc is feeling that. He's won the two most important races for himself and Ferrari, which are, Monaco and Monza. And I think that he turns into superhero, supervillain mode for the rest of the season. And this 86-point gap, after Singapore, I think it becomes a 40-point gap. And then we have, what is it, 6 races to make up 40 points. I think that that's very possible. And I think that by Singapore, I think he actually passes Lando Norris, and that becomes the real championship fight this year. It's going to be Charles Leclerc versus Max Verstappen. And I think it might go to the last race. I think that you might have a last race where Charles Leclerc needs to win and Max Verstappen needs to finish above 6th place or something in order to win the championship, right? So Charles Leclerc needs to win. For Charles Leclerc to win, he needs to win and Max to finish 7 or below. Or for Max to win, he needs to finish in the top 6. And we're going to have a very, very interesting race in Abu Dhabi. Which, by the way, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, or I'm going to correct myself right now, Abu Dhabi is where Max Verstappen beat Lewis Hamilton, right? So I think Abu Dhabi, is going to be the track where things happen, and I think we're going to have a great end to the season. I think that all season long we've thought that Lando Norris is going to be the guy, but I think Charles Leclerc is going to come back out of nowhere and take the mantle back. And also, like, if you look at Ferrari's points, like, they obviously had, like, a pretty good start to the season, but there's been a dip over the past, like, 5-6 races. But recently, they've been coming back into form. 37 points, 25 points. The car looks good again, and with Charles Leclerc in demon mode, I think that we're going to have a great end of the year, and I think that he's going to take these points away from Lando Norris.